Captain Jake Morrison stood near the large window of the human ship called Frontier. He was watching space when he saw something moving closer. It was a big alien warship. The ship belonged to a group called the Krell Dominion. Every human who traveled in space knew about the Krell. They were mean and liked to fight. They thought they were better than everyone else. Their ships were huge, much bigger than any human ship. The Krell ships had many guns and weapons. People said their weapons could break a whole planet into pieces. A young woman walked up to stand next to Jake. Her name was Amy Harper, and she was a lieutenant in the crew. Amy was the officer in charge of weapons on the Frontier. She was very young for such an important job. Most people were surprised when they heard how young she was. Amy had grown up on Mars, the red planet. Life on Mars was hard. The gravity was weak and everything floated around easily. Kids on Mars learned to catch things very fast or expensive tools would break. Amy had been catching flying objects since she was little. Amy looked at her screen. It showed where the Krell ship was going and how fast it was moving. She watched the numbers change on her display. Her face stayed calm. She did not look worried at all. Jake noticed that Amy never seemed scared of anything. That was one reason why he trusted her so much. "Sir, they are turning on their weapons," Amy said. Her voice was quiet and steady. She touched some buttons on her control panel. Her hands moved fast, but she knew exactly what she was doing. This is what the Krell always do. They will shoot a warning shot at us. The shot will fly past our ship really close. They do this to scare us. They want to show us they are strong. Then they will try to talk to us. Jake looked at her. "How do you know what they will do?" he asked. Amy kept watching her screen. "Because this is what bullies do," she said. "I know bullies. I have met many bullies in my life. They always try to scare you first. The Krell are just bullies with big ships and big guns." She looked at a timer on her screen. Warning shot coming in 3 seconds. 2 seconds. 1 second. The Krell warship fired its weapon. A ball of hot plasma shot out from their ship. The plasma was bright and dangerous. It was as big as a small shuttle. It flew toward the Frontier so fast that most people could not even see it move. The Krell had aimed the shot to pass right in front of the human ship. It would come very close but would not hit them. This was supposed to make the humans afraid. It was supposed to show them that the Krell had power. This was how the Krell always started conversations with other ships. But Amy was already moving. Her hands flew across her controls. The Frontier had a special system to protect the ship. Amy turned it on. A field of energy appeared in space. It was like an invisible wall made of pure force. The plasma bolt hit this wall and stopped. It just hung there in space, frozen like a bug stuck in tree sap. The energy inside the plasma crackled and sparked, but it could not move forward. It could not hurt the ship. The field held it in place perfectly. Jake stared at the floating plasma bolt. Then he looked at Amy. A small smile started to appear on his face. "What are you doing?" he asked. But he thought he already knew the answer. He had worked with Amy long enough to understand how her mind worked. "I am giving back their property, sir," Amy said. She sounded very polite and formal. They dropped something. "It seems rude not to return it to them." She was still touching her controls, making small changes to the energy field. Amy changed something in the field. The plasma bolt started to turn around in space. It rotated slowly until it was pointing back toward the Krell ship. Then Amy pressed another button. The Frontier's small engines fired. These were the engines used for moving slowly and carefully. The ship moved forward. As it moved, it pushed the energy field along with it. The field was still holding the plasma bolt. So the ship was now carrying the dangerous plasma bolt back toward the Krell, like someone returning a ball to a neighbor who had thrown it over the fence. Jake could see the Krell ship on the main viewing screen. Inside that ship, he knew the Krell crew must be running around in panic. Their computers had not expected this to happen. No one had ever caught one of their warning shots before. No species in space had ever been able to stop their plasma weapons. Now their own plasma bolt was coming back at them. It was still full of energy. It was still dangerous. And it was getting closer to their ship every second. Amy brought the Frontier right next to the big Krell warship. She matched their speed perfectly. The two ships flew side by side through space. The plasma bolt floated between them, still held in Amy's energy field. It glowed and crackled with power. Then Amy opened a communication channel so she could talk to the Krell ship. "Hello, Krell vessel," Amy said. Her voice sounded friendly and helpful. "I think you dropped this. I wanted to make sure you got it back. We humans have rules about littering in space. We have to keep space clean. It is about protecting the environment and all that. Nobody on the Krell ship said anything for a long time. Jake could imagine what they must be thinking. They were probably very confused. They were probably getting worried too. The Krell had fired a weapon that no one was supposed to be able to stop. Their weapons were famous across 3 sectors of space. Everyone knew you could not catch or block a Krell plasma bolt. But here it was, hanging in space between the 2 ships. A human had caught it easily, and now that same human was offering to give it back to them like it was no big deal. Finally, someone on the Krell ship spoke. The voice was deep and rough like rocks grinding together. "This is Commander Vex of the Krell Dominion," the voice said. "What you have done is something we have never seen before. No species has ever done this. We like to make good first impressions," Amy replied. She still sounded calm and friendly. "Now, would you like to talk about territory and trade like reasonable people? Or would you like to throw some more things at us? I can hold on to those too if you want. I can start a whole collection of things you drop." Jake watched the Krell ship carefully. He was ready for anything. The Krell might decide to attack for real this time. They might fire all their weapons at once, or they might be smart and realize that fighting the humans would be a bad idea. He hoped they would be smart. He did not want to fight. But if the Krell attacked, the frontier was ready. Amy had already proven she could handle their weapons. The plasma bolt still floated between the 2 ships. It was bright and full of deadly energy. It lit up the dark space around them. Inside the frontier, the crew waited to see what would happen next. They trusted Amy and Jake to handle this situation. They knew their officers were good at their jobs. But everyone was a little nervous. The Krell were dangerous. Everyone in space knew that. Amy kept her hands on her controls. She was ready to move the plasma bolt if she needed to. She was ready to defend the ship if the Krell attacked. But she did not look worried. She looked like she was just doing her job, like this was a normal day. That was the thing about Amy, she always stayed calm. She never panicked. That was why Jake had made her his weapons officer even though she was so young. Commander Vex spoke again. His voice sounded different now. He sounded less sure of himself. "We will talk," he said. "But first, please remove our weapon from between our ships." "It makes me nervous," Amy smiled. "Of course, Commander," she said. She touched her controls and the energy field changed. The plasma bolt drifted away from both ships. It moved off into empty space. After it was far enough away, Amy let the field collapse. The plasma bolt exploded harmlessly in the distance. It made a bright flash of light, but no one was hurt. "There," Amy said. "All clean. Now shall we talk about how we can be friends instead of enemies? I think you will find that being friends with humans is much better than fighting us. We are very good at helping our friends. And we are very good at defending ourselves from people who are not friendly." Jake nodded to himself. Amy had done it again. She had turned a dangerous situation into an opportunity. She had shown the Krell that humans were not weak, but she had done it without making them into enemies. She had caught their warning shot and given it back. Now the Krell knew that humans could defend themselves, but they also knew that humans wanted peace, not war. That was exactly the right message to send. "We will send a shuttle to your ship," Commander Vex said. "We will talk face to face." This is very unusual. The Krell Dominion does not usually talk to smaller ships, but you have shown us something new today. You have shown us that size is not everything. You have made us curious about humans. Your shuttle is welcome here, Jake said. He spoke for the first time since the plasma bolt had been fired. "We look forward to meeting you, Commander Vex. We have much to talk about. I think this will be the beginning of a good friendship." Amy closed the communication channel. She turned to look at Jake. Her face showed no emotion, but her eyes were bright. "That went well," she said simply. Jake laughed. "Only you would catch a plasma bolt and call it going well," he said. "Good work, Lieutenant. Very good work. You may have just made humanity some very powerful friends, or at least you stopped us from making very powerful enemies. Either way, I am glad you are on our side." Amy shrugged. "I just did what made sense," she said. "They threw something at us. I caught it. I gave it back. That is what you do with bullies. You show them you are not afraid. You show them you can handle whatever they throw at you, then they usually stop." The meeting room on the frontier was designed to be comfortable. It had soft chairs and warm lights. There was a table where people could sit and talk. The room was made for friendly meetings, not for threats or fights. This seemed to make Commander Vex uncomfortable. He kept looking around the room like he expected a trap. The Krell commander was very tall, almost 7 feet. His skin was covered in purple scales that looked hard and strong. He had 4 arms instead of 2 like humans. At the end of each arm were sharp claws that could tear through metal. Vex was built for war. But right now he was sitting at a peaceful table drinking coffee. Across from him sat Lieutenant Amy Harper. She looked tiny compared to the huge alien, but she did not seem worried at all. She drank her coffee slowly and watched Vex with calm eyes. She acted like this was just a normal business meeting. This calm behavior seemed to bother Vex even more than the comfortable room. He was used to people being afraid of him. Amy was not afraid. "I do not understand humans," Vex said at last. His voice was deep and rough. "Your ship is smaller than mine. You have fewer weapons. By every measure, my ship should win in a fight. Yet you treat me as an equal. You are not afraid. Why?" Jake Morrison sat at the head of the table. He was the captain, so he led the meeting. "Because you are an equal," he said simply. "Size does not matter as much as you think, Commander. Neither do weapons. What matters is how you use what you have." Vex pointed one of his forearms at Amy. "Your lieutenant caught a plasma bolt. She caught it with her bare hands. This should be impossible. Our plasma weapons are the most powerful in 3 sectors. No one can stop them. Yet she stopped one easily. How?" "Well, I did not use my actual hands," Amy said. She smiled a little. "I used an energy field. But I did catch a baseball once when I was 12 years old. That hurt a lot. I had to go to the hospital. My mom was very angry at me. She said I should have just let it go past me." Vex's translator tried to make sense of the words baseball and hospital. He did not completely understand, but he kept talking. "We have conquered 17 species," he said. "We have fought hundreds of battles. We have never met anyone who could resist us like you did. This troubles me. It makes me question everything I know." "Maybe you have been meeting the wrong neighbors," Amy said. She put down her coffee cup and pulled up a picture in the air. It was made of light, a hologram. The picture showed a map of stars and planets. "Look, Commander. We are not interested in conquering anyone. We are explorers. We are scientists. We came out here to learn new things, not to fight wars. But if someone attacks us, we will absolutely defend ourselves. And we are very good at defending ourselves, but why?" Vex asked. His voice was loud and confused. "Why did you return my weapon to me? You could have destroyed my ship. You had my plasma bolt. You could have sent it back at full power. You could have killed all of us. Why did you not do that?" Amy leaned forward. She looked at Vex directly. "Because destroying your ship would have been stupid," she said. "What would we gain? We would make enemies of the entire Krell Dominion. You would send more ships to attack us. More people would die on both sides. Resources would be wasted. Energy would be wasted. Time would be wasted. And for what? Just to prove we are strong? We already proved that by catching your shot. We do not need to kill you to show we are capable." She sat back in her chair. "Returning your shot was a message," she continued. "The message was this: we can defend ourselves, but we would rather be friends. We are strong enough that you cannot bully us, but we are smart enough to know that friendship is better than war. That is what humans do, Commander. We look for the smart solution, not just the violent one." Jake nodded his agreement. "The galaxy is huge, Commander Vex," he said. "There is room for everyone. We can waste our time fighting over who controls which space, or we can share information and technology. We can help each other. We can all benefit. Which option sounds smarter to you?" Vex sat very still. His purple scales changed color slightly. They shifted through different shades of purple. The humans had learned this meant he was thinking hard about something. "The Krell Dominion does not share," he said slowly. "We take what we want. That is our way. That is how we have always done things." "Then you have been missing out on a lot," Amy said. She pulled up another picture in the air. "Do you know what humans have learned in the last 50 years? We have learned 300 new types of math. We have discovered 2,000 new materials. We have found technologies that let us live twice as long as before. And do you know where most of these discoveries came from? They came from working with other species. They came from trading knowledge. They came from cooperation." She changed the picture. Now it showed lines connecting many different star systems. Each line was a different color. "This is the human trade network," Amy explained. "Every line represents an exchange. We trade information with this species. We trade resources with that one. We share cultural knowledge with another. Some of these species were hostile to us at first, just like you. But they learned what we learned. Working together is always better than fighting. Always. And what if we refuse? Vex asked. His voice was quieter now, less aggressive. What if the Krell Dominion does not want to be your friend? Amy's face did not change, but her voice became harder. Then we will defend ourselves and our allies, she said. We will protect what is ours. And I promise you this, Commander. That plasma bolt I caught was the easiest thing we can do. We have other capabilities. Much more impressive capabilities. We would prefer not to show them to you. We do not want to fight, but if you force us to fight, we will, and you will lose. So I will ask you one more time. Would you rather be our friend or our enemy? The room became very quiet. Nobody spoke. Jake watched Vex carefully. He saw the Krell commander's claws open and close. This was a sign that Vex was struggling with a difficult decision. The Krell were warriors. They were conquerors. Asking them to cooperate instead of dominate was asking them to change their entire way of thinking. It was asking them to become something different. Minutes passed. The silence stretched out. Amy and Jake waited patiently. They did not rush Vex. They knew this was a big decision for him. They knew he needed time to think. Outside the window, stars shined in the darkness of space. Both ships floated next to each other, waiting to see if they would become friends or enemies. Tell me more about this trade network, Vex said finally. His voice was very quiet. Tell me how it works. Tell me what the Krell Dominion would need to do to join it. Amy smiled. It was a real smile, warm and genuine. The first thing you need to do is stop thinking about conquering, she said. Start thinking about cooperating. That is the hardest part for most warrior species. But once you understand that working together creates more value than taking by force, everything else becomes easier. She pulled up more pictures and started explaining. The trade network was complex. There were rules about fair exchange. There were agreements about sharing technology. There were treaties about protecting each other from threats. But the basic idea was simple. Everyone gave something. Everyone received something. Everyone benefited. No one tried to dominate. No one tried to conquer. They all just worked together toward common goals. Vex listened carefully. He asked many questions. Some questions were about technology. Some were about resources. Some were about how disputes were handled. Amy and Jake answered every question honestly. They did not hide anything. They wanted Vex to understand exactly how the system worked. They wanted him to see that it was fair. This will be difficult for my people, Vex admitted after a while. We have been warriors for thousands of years. Our entire culture is built on strength and conquest. Changing that will not be easy. Many Krell will resist. Many will say we are becoming weak. Strength is not just about fighting, Jake said. Real strength is knowing when to fight and when to cooperate. Real strength is being smart enough to choose the option that benefits you most. And I promise you, Commander, cooperation will benefit the Krell Dominion much more than conquest ever did. Amy refilled Vex's coffee cup. The Krell commander had discovered he liked the human drink. It was strange to see such a fierce warrior enjoying something as simple as coffee. But that was the point, really. Underneath all the armor and weapons and aggressive behavior, the Krell were just people. They wanted the same things everyone wanted. They wanted safety. They wanted prosperity. They wanted a good future for their children. War could not give them those things. But cooperation could. I will take this information back to my superiors, Vex said at last. I will tell them what I have learned here. I cannot promise they will agree to join your network. But I will try to convince them. You have shown me something important today. You have shown me that there might be a better way than the way we have always done things. That is all we ask, Jake said. Just think about it. Consider the possibilities. And remember, if you need help with anything, you can contact us. That is what allies do. They help each other. Vex stood up. His great height made him tower over the humans. But somehow he did not seem threatening anymore. He seemed thoughtful. He seemed like someone who had learned something important and was trying to figure out what to do with that knowledge. He looked at Amy for a long moment. You are. 3 weeks passed after the meeting with Commander Vex. The Frontier continued its mission, exploring new star systems and gathering scientific data. Life on the ship returned to normal. The crew did their jobs. The scientists studied their samples. Everything was peaceful and routine. Then one morning, a message arrived. It was coded and secret, coming from deep inside Krell space. When Jake opened it, he saw Commander Vex's face on the screen. But Vex looked different this time. He looked worried. He looked scared. "Captain Morrison," Vex said. His voice was heavy and serious. "I need your help. There is a situation. My people cannot solve it. We have tried everything we know. Nothing works. If we do not find a solution soon, millions of Krell will die." Jake had been drinking his morning coffee. He put down his cup and called Amy to the bridge. She arrived quickly. She had been spending most of her time on the bridge lately. She seemed to enjoy being there, watching the stars and monitoring the ship's systems. When she saw Vex's worried face on the screen, she became alert immediately. "What kind of situation?" Jake asked. He sat up straighter in his captain's chair. "Tell us what is happening, Commander." "One of our colony worlds is dying," Vex said. His scales had turned a dark, sad purple. "The planet is called Krell 7. It has a big colony there. 17 million Krell live on that world. But 3 months ago, something went wrong. The planet became infected with nanites. Do you know what nanites are?" "Yes," Amy said. She moved closer to the screen. "Nanites are tiny machines. They are so small you cannot see them without special tools. What are these nanites doing to your planet?" "They are eating everything," Vex said. His voice cracked a little. "The nanites consume all organic matter. They break down plants. They break down animals. They break down any living thing they touch. Then they use the material to make more nanites. We have surrounded the planet with ships. We have created a blockade, but we cannot stop the nanites from spreading across the planet's surface. In 3 months, maybe less, everything alive on Krell 7 will be gone. 17 million of my people will be dead." Amy's face became very serious. "How are the nanites spreading?" she asked. "Are they in the air? In the water? How do they move from place to place?" Vex touched something on his end. Data began flowing to the Frontier's computers. "We believe they travel through the air," he said. "They are light enough to float on the wind. They spread like dust or pollen. They use carbon from living things to replicate. We have tried to stop them. We have bombed infected areas from orbit. We have used chemical weapons. We even use nuclear weapons. Nothing works. The nanites just adapt. They learn from each attack. They become stronger and harder to kill." Commander Lisa Wong was the science officer on the Frontier. She had been listening to the conversation. Now she started examining the data that Vex had sent. After a few minutes, she whistled quietly. "This is very advanced," she said. "These nanites are learning machines. They adapt to every threat in real time. Whoever designed these knew exactly what they were doing. This is military-grade technology." Amy turned to look at the screen. She looked directly at Vex. "Did you make these nanites?" she asked. Her voice was not angry. She just wanted to know the truth. Vex's scales turned almost black. This was the Krell version of shame. "Yes," he said quietly. "We made them. They were supposed to be a weapon. We were going to use them against our enemies. We built a prototype to test. The plan was to deactivate the prototype after the test was finished. But something went wrong. There was a malfunction. The nanites were released on Krell 7 by accident. Now they are killing our own people." Amy leaned back and crossed her arms. "So let me understand this correctly," she said. "You built a weapon that eats entire planets. You lost control of it. Now it is destroying one of your own colonies. And you need us to help you fix your mistake. Is that right?" "Yes," Vex said simply. He did not try to make excuses. He did not try to blame anyone else. He just accepted the truth. "My superiors are talking about destroying the entire planet. They want to blow it up completely. That would stop the nanites from spreading to other worlds. But it would also kill everyone still alive on Krell 7. I told them about you. I told them about your philosophy of finding better solutions. I told them that humans might know another way. Was I wrong to tell them that?" Jake looked at his crew. This was a big decision. The Krell had been hostile to them just weeks ago. The Krell had fired weapons at them. Now the Krell were asking for help with a problem of their own making. Jake could refuse. He could say this was not humanity's problem. He could let the Krell deal with the consequences of their own weapons. That would be the safe choice. That would be the easy choice. But then he looked at Amy. She was watching him carefully. When their eyes met, she gave a small nod. That was all she did. Just one small nod. But Jake understood what it meant. It meant she thought they should help. It meant she believed they could find a solution. It meant she wanted to try. "Commander Wong," Jake said. He made his decision. "Put together a team. We are going to Krell 7, get our best engineers, Get our best scientists, and make sure Lieutenant Harper has everything she needs. If we are going to catch another one of the Krell's problems and give it back to them solved, we need to be ready for anything." Amy smiled. It was not a big smile, just a small one, but her eyes were bright with interest. "I will need a few things," she said. "I need a containment team. I need 3 engineers who are good with energy fields. I need someone who is really good at programming computers. And I need coffee. A lot of coffee. This is going to take some time." Lisa looked at Amy with surprise. "You are planning to reprogram the nanites?" she asked. Her voice showed how crazy she thought that idea was. These things adapt to everything. How can you reprogram something that learns to resist any change? "I'm not going to reprogram them," Amy said. She was already pulling up the data and making notes on her screen. "I am going to teach them to reprogram themselves. These nanites are learning machines, right? They adapt. They study threats and figure out how to overcome them. That is what they do. So we do not fight them. We do not threaten them. Instead, we show them something better to do. We teach them a new purpose." On the screen, Vex's face showed something the humans had never seen before. He was smiling. It was a Krell smile which looked different from a human smile. But it was real. "This is why I called you," he said. "The Krell Dominion only knows how to destroy things. We build weapons. We make war. But you humans always look for another way. You always try to create instead of destroy. That is what makes you special." Amy was already working on her plan. She was sketching diagrams and running calculations. "Well," she said without looking up from her work, "that is what happens when you grow up on a planet that is trying to kill you every day. Mars is harsh. The air is poison. The temperature is deadly. The radiation is dangerous. Everything about Mars wants humans dead, but we live there anyway. You know why? Because we learned that you do not survive by fighting your environment. You survive by understanding it. You survive by working with it. You survive by turning problems into solutions." She finally looked up at the screen. "Set a course for Krell 7, Captain," she said. "Let us go save 17 million people, even if those people were shooting at us just a few weeks ago. Because that is what humans do. We help even when it is hard, even when it is dangerous, even when the people we are helping do not deserve it. We help anyway." Jake gave the order to the ship's pilot. The Frontier turned in space and began accelerating toward Krell space. They were going into potential danger. They were going to face a weapon that had already resisted every attempt to stop it. They were going to try to save a planet that the Krell themselves had given up on. It was risky. It was possibly foolish, but it was the right thing to do. Amy left the bridge and headed to the science lab. She had work to do. She had to figure out exactly how these nanites worked. She had to understand their learning protocols. She had to find a way to teach them a new purpose. It would not be easy, but Amy had never been afraid of hard work. She had grown up on Mars. She had learned to catch things that should not be catchable. She had learned to solve problems that seemed impossible. This was just another problem. And problems could always be solved if you were smart enough and creative enough. On the bridge, Jake watched the stars stream past as the Frontier flew faster and faster. "We are doing the right thing," Lisa said quietly. She had come to stand next to him. "Even if it is dangerous, even if we might fail, this is what makes us human. We try to help. We always try," Jake nodded. "Yes," he said. "This is what makes us human. And maybe if we succeed, we will teach the Krell something important. We will show them that their weapons can be transformed into tools. We will show them that destruction can become creation. We will show them that even their worst mistakes can be turned into something good." The ship flew on through space, heading toward a dying world and a desperate species that had learned to ask for help. Behind them, Commander Vex watched his screen until the human ship disappeared from view. Then he turned to his own crew. "Prepare my ship," he ordered. "We are going to Krell 7 as well. If the humans are brave enough to try to save our people, then we will be there to help them. That is what allies do. They help each other. The humans taught me that. Now it is time for us to learn. Krell 7 looked dead from space. The planet had once been beautiful. Old photos showed forests that were green and purple. There had been lakes and rivers. There had been cities full of life. But now everything was gray. The nanites had eaten all the color. They had consumed every living thing they could find. Large areas of the planet were completely empty. Not a single blade of grass remained. Not a single tree. Not a single bug. The Krell colonists had run away into underground bunkers. They had sealed themselves below the surface. They were buying time, but they had no hope. Eventually, the nanites would get in. Eventually, everyone would die. Amy stood in the main science lab on the frontier. Around her were screens showing how the nanites behaved. She had been working for 36 hours without sleep. She drank cup after cup of coffee to stay awake. Commander Wong had tried to make her rest. Amy had said no. There was no time to rest. 17 million people were counting on her. These things are beautiful in a scary way, Amy said. She was looking at a 3D picture of a single nanite. It was so small that millions of them could fit on the head of a pin. But the design was perfect. Look at how they learn. Every time something attacks them, they study it. They figure out how to resist it. Then they become stronger. The Krell really did build the perfect weapon. Too perfect, Lisa agreed. She was working at another screen. That is why nothing has stopped them. Every attack just makes them smarter. Bombs make them stronger. Chemicals make them adapt. Even nuclear weapons just teach them new ways to survive. They are too good at learning. Right, Amy said. So we stopped trying to fight them. She pulled up a new set of plans. Instead, we give them something better to do. These nanites were programmed to break down living things. But what if we show them they can build things instead? What if we teach them to repair instead of destroy? She sent her plan to the other scientists on the team. Carlos Rodriguez was one of the engineers. He looked at the plan and made a surprised sound. You want to reprogram them to fix ecological damage, he asked. You want to turn planet killers into planet healers. Not reprogram, Amy corrected. Teach. The nanites already know how to learn. They already have protocols for studying and adapting. We just need to give them a new teacher. We create a safe area with damaged plants and soil. Then we introduce new nanites that are programmed to repair that damage. When the killer nanites meet the repair nanites, they will study them. They will learn from them. And if we do this right, they will adopt the repair programming themselves. You are going to teach killer robots to become gardeners, Lisa said slowly. That is either the smartest idea I have ever heard or the craziest. Maybe both, definitely both, Amy said with a tired smile. Carlos, I need you to build me an energy field. It needs to be strong enough to hold about 10 billion nanites. Lisa, work with the Krell. Get samples of soil and plants from before the infection. I need to know what this planet looked like when it was healthy. And someone tell the captain that I need to go down to the planet's surface. 6 hours later, Amy stood on the surface of Krell 7. She wore a thick environmental suit. The suit protected her from the nanites floating in the air. Around her was nothing but gray dirt. This had been a forest once. Now it was a wasteland. The energy field hummed around her. It was a sphere of force that kept the nanites out. Inside the field, she had built a tiny version of what the planet used to be. There was soil from before the infection. There were plants that had been preserved. There were even tiny microorganisms, too small to see, that used to live in the dirt. In the center of this tiny ecosystem was a glass container. Inside the container were her special nanites. She had programmed them herself. These nanites did not destroy. They repaired. They rebuilt. They restored. They took dead things and made them alive again. This is crazy, Lieutenant. Jake's voice came through her helmet radio. If this does not work, those killer nanites will learn from your repair nanites. They might become even more dangerous. They might learn to fool us by pretending to repair things while actually destroying them. Then we better make sure it works, Amy replied. Her hands were steady as she opened the glass container. The repair nanites spread out. They were so small she could not see them, but her instruments showed them moving through the tiny ecosystem. They began their work immediately. They repaired damage to plant cells. They fixed the chemical balance in the soil. They worked with incredible precision to rebuild what had been destroyed. Amy took a deep breath. Then she lowered the energy field. The killer nanites rushed in immediately. They had detected living matter. That was what they were programmed to find and destroy. They swarmed toward the tiny ecosystem like sharks smelling blood in water. But when they arrived, they found something unexpected. They found Amy's repair nanites actively working to heal and restore. The two groups of nanites collided. For a long moment, nothing happened. The repair nanites kept working. The killer nanites just watched. Then the killer nanites did what they were designed to do. They learned. They studied. They analyzed. They looked at how the repair nanites were working. They examined the programming. They tried to understand this new behavior, but something unexpected happened. The killer nanites did not learn how to overcome the repair nanites. Instead, they learned from them. The destructive programming was overwritten. The urge to destroy was replaced by an urge to create. Breaking down became building up. Consumption became conservation. The killer nanites were changing. They were becoming something new. They were becoming helpers instead of destroyers. Within minutes, Amy saw the change happening. The gray dirt around her feet started to shift color. Tiny hints of green appeared. Then purple. Plant matter began to grow again. The transformed nanites were spreading outward. Every killer nanite they met, they taught. Every destructive machine they encountered, they converted. The change spread like ripples in a pond, getting bigger and bigger. "It is working," Lisa said over the radio. Her voice was full of wonder. "The nanites are converting. The infection is reversing. We are reading massive changes across the entire infected zone. The nanites are repairing the damage they caused. They are bringing the planet back to life." Amy watched as the transformation spread across the landscape. It moved faster and faster. Gray turned to green and purple. Dead ground became living soil. Tiny plants pushed up through the dirt. The air started to smell different, less like dust and more like growing things. The Krell's doomsday weapon was becoming a restoration tool. It was fixing the very damage it had caused. It was healing the planet it had tried to kill. "You caught their plague and gave it back to them as a cure," Jake said quietly. His voice was full of respect. "Lieutenant Harper, you have done something amazing. You have turned a weapon of mass destruction into a tool of mass healing." "Not just me, sir," Amy said. She was watching the green spread across the gray landscape. "The nanites did most of the work. I just showed them there was a better way to use their abilities. Sometimes that is all it takes. Give something a choice between destroying and creating. Often it will choose to create. Creation is better than destruction. Even machines can understand that." On his ship in orbit, Commander Vex watched the transformation happening on the planet below. His instruments showed him the spreading wave of green. They showed him life returning where death had ruled. He had seen many things in his long military career. He had seen planets conquered. He had seen weapons destroy entire cities. But he had never seen anything like this. He had never seen death reversed. He had never seen a weapon unmade and remade into something good. "The humans have done it," one of his officers said. "They have saved Krell 7. They have saved 17 million of our people. How is this possible?" Vex thought about the question for a moment. "Because they think differently than we do," he said finally. "We Krell see a problem and we try to destroy it. We use force. We use power. But humans see a problem and they try to understand it. They try to transform it. They look for ways to turn bad things into good things. That is their strength. That is what makes them special." He looked at the planet on his screen. The gray was almost gone now. Green and purple covered most of the visible surface. Life was spreading everywhere. "This is what cooperation means," Vex said. "This is what the humans tried to teach me in that meeting. They do not just talk about helping each other. They actually do it. Even when it is hard. Even when it is dangerous. Even when we do not deserve their help. They help anyway." Down on the surface, Amy finally allowed herself to smile. The transformation was complete. The planet was healing. In a few weeks, the Krell colonists would be able to leave their bunkers. They would be able to walk on the surface again. They would be able to go home. 17 million people would live instead of die, all because someone had taught some tiny machines that building was better than breaking. All because someone had shown them a better purpose. "Lieutenant Harper, report back to the ship," Jake ordered. "Your job is done. You have earned some rest, and probably about 3 days of sleep." "You look exhausted," Amy laughed. It was a tired laugh, but a happy one. "Yes, sir," she said. "I could definitely use some sleep, and maybe some real food, and possibly a shower. But first I want to watch this for just a minute." 3 months passed after the Krell 7 incident. During that time, many things changed. The Frontier had docked at a new space station called Unity Station. This was humanity's first permanent diplomatic building in this part of space. The station was huge and beautiful. It had been built using technology and resources from 12 different species. Even the Krell had helped build it. They had sent ships and workers and materials. The old Krell, the ones who only knew how to conquer, would never have done this. But the new Krell, the ones who were learning cooperation, had helped eagerly. Commander Vex stood next to Amy at a large window. They watched robots working on the outside of the station. The robots were building new sections, adding more rooms and facilities. Vex had changed a lot since their first meeting. His scales had become lighter in color. They were now a peaceful shade of purple instead of the dark, aggressive color from before. He had started wearing a human-style uniform. He wore it alongside his traditional Krell armor. It was a symbol that he belonged to both worlds now. Krell 7 is completely restored, Vex said. He was giving Amy a report. The colonists have all returned to their homes. The nanites are still working. They are improving the ecosystem. They are making it better than it was before. Some of our scientists think the planet will be more fertile now. They think crops will grow better. They think the forest will be healthier. Your nanites did not just heal the planet. They improved it. That is what happens when you give something a better purpose, Amy said. She was looking out at the stars. Once something learns it can build instead of destroy, it usually goes beyond what you expect. It wants to do more. It wants to create more. Building is more satisfying than breaking. How are your people adjusting to all these changes? Vex was quiet for a moment. He seemed to be thinking about how to answer. It is difficult, he said finally. The Dominion was built on conquest and strength. For thousands of years, we took what we wanted. We dominated others. We never asked for help. We never offered to cooperate. Learning to do these things now is not easy. It goes against everything we were taught. But we are learning. Just like the nanites learned. Change is possible if you want it badly enough. He turned to face Amy directly. His forearms moved in a gesture that meant he was about to say something important. I must ask you something, Lieutenant. When I fired that warning shot at your ship, you could have responded with force. You could have destroyed us. Your weapons are clearly more advanced than we thought. Why did you not attack us? Amy thought about the question. She wanted to give a good answer. Because I grew up on Mars, Commander, she said. Do you know what life is like on Mars? Every single day is a fight to survive. The atmosphere will kill you if you breathe it. The temperature will freeze you or cook you. The radiation will make you sick. By all logic, humans should not be able to live there. We should have given up and gone home to Earth. She smiled a little. But we do live there. We have cities on Mars, we have farms. We have millions of people living good lives. You know why? Because we learned something important. We learned that the best way to survive a hostile environment is not to fight it. You cannot fight a whole planet. You will lose. Instead, you have to understand it. You have to adapt to it. You have to find ways to work with it instead of against it. That is what being human means. We do not just survive, we thrive. We turn bad situations into good ones. We turn enemies into friends whenever we can. So when I caught your warning shot, she continued, I was not just defending my ship. I was showing you something. I was showing you that we could either be enemies who waste time and resources fighting, or we could be partners who accomplish great things together. I chose to bet on partnership. And I think that bet has paid off well. Look at this station. Look at all these different species working together. This exists because we chose cooperation over conflict. Vex's scales changed colors several times. They shifted through different shades as he processed his emotions. Finally, they settled on a warm amber color. The Dominion Council has asked me to give you an invitation, he said. They want you to visit our homeworld. They want you to meet our leaders. They want you to teach us more about this philosophy of cooperation. They have even given you a title. They call you the Returner. The Returner? Amy asked. She looked surprised. Why that name? Because you catch what we throw at you and you return it transformed into something better. Vex explained. You caught our plasma bolt and gave it back as a lesson in restraint. You caught our plague and returned it as a cure. My people believe you have wisdom that we need. They believe you can teach us how to be better than we are. Amy laughed. It was a genuine laugh, not forced or fake. I am just an engineer from Mars who does not like to see things wasted, she said. But sure, I will visit your homeworld. I have one condition, though. Just one thing you have to do first. Name it, Vex said immediately. Bring some of your people here first, Amy said. She pointed at Unity Station. Let them come here and work with humans and other species. Let them see cooperation happening in real life. Let them experience it before we talk about philosophy. Experience is a better teacher than words. They need to see it with their own eyes. They need to work alongside people from other species. Then they will understand what cooperation really means. Vex nodded slowly. His head moved up and down in the human gesture he had learned. You want us to learn like the nanites learned, he said. By doing, not by being told. That is smart. That is very smart. I will arrange it immediately, and who knows, Amy added. Maybe while your people are here learning about cooperation, they will teach us something too. That is how it works when different cultures meet. Everyone brings something valuable. Everyone learns something new. Everyone leaves better than they arrived. That is the real magic of cooperation. It makes everyone stronger. Captain Jake Morrison walked over to join them. He was carrying 3 cups of coffee. He gave one to Amy and offered the third to Vex. The Krell commander had developed a strong liking for the human drink. He found the taste interesting and the warmth comforting. Coffee had become a symbol of the friendship between their species. How is our favorite shot catcher doing? Jake asked with a smile. Apparently, I'm going to be a traveling teacher, Amy replied. She sipped her coffee. The Krell want me to teach them about cooperation. They have given me a title and everything. I am the returner now. Well, you did start a diplomatic incident by catching a plasma bolt, Jake pointed out. Or rather, you ended one before it could start. Either way, I would say you are qualified to teach diplomacy. You have certainly proven you know how to handle difficult situations. Amy looked out at Unity Station. She could see ships from many different species working together. Everyone was building something new. In the distance, she could see the Krell warships. But they were not weapons of war anymore. They had been converted into construction platforms. They were helping to build instead of preparing to destroy. Beyond them, human ships worked next to alien craft. Everyone was moving together toward a common goal. It was beautiful. You know something funny, Amy said. When I was a kid on Mars, I used to dream about exploring space. I imagined meeting aliens. I thought about having adventures. I pictured fighting bad guys and saving people. But I never imagined that the most important thing I would do would be this. Just showing people there is a better way than fighting. Just proving that you can catch what someone throws at you and hand it back as something better. This is better than any adventure I imagined as a kid. Vex raised his coffee cup. It was a gesture he had learned from humans. A toast to Lieutenant Amy Harper, he said. The human who taught the Krell Dominion that true strength is not about firepower. True strength is about choosing when not to fire at all. True strength is about building bridges instead of burning them. Jake raised his cup as well. And to all the humans out here doing what we do best, he said. Finding problems, understanding them, and turning them into opportunities. That is humanity. We do not just survive the galaxy. We make it better. We make it a place where everyone can thrive together. Amy touched her cup against theirs. The 3 cups made a soft clinking sound. She looked out at the stars. They were bright and endless. Somewhere out there were more species waiting to be met. More conflicts waiting to be resolved. More warning shots would probably be fired. More problems would appear that seemed impossible to solve. But Amy was not worried. She had learned something important in her life. She had learned it on Mars, where every day was a battle for survival. She had learned it in space, where danger could come from anywhere. She had learned it from nanites that changed from killers to healers. The lesson was simple but powerful. Almost any problem can be solved if you are creative enough. Almost any enemy can become a friend if you give them a chance. Almost anything bad can be transformed into something good if you believe it is possible, and you are willing to do the work. That was the human way. That was what made humanity special in a galaxy full of different species. Humans did not have the biggest ships. They did not have the most powerful weapons. They were not the oldest civilization or the wisest, but they had something more important. They had the ability to see possibilities where others saw only problems. They